Thank you. So one of the more odd detours that my life has taken was back in 2007 when I was hired as a press aide for the Department of Education in Harrisburg. The job required me to relocate there, and I'll tell you, it's a really weird place. Now, it's not without its own unique merits. I met great people, made lifelong friendships, and the art and music scene will rival any major city. But one of the more surprising aspects of our capital is the really high crime rates. Now, I've lived in North Philly and a pre-gentrified Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and I've never experienced what I experienced in Harrisburg. I'll tell you, there's something in the water, and I'm pretty sure it's a result of 3 Mile Island. Now, there was a night when I was walking home late from my favorite bar when this large van pulled up beside me with these blackout tinted windows, and it was a really surreal moment because I could hear screaming from inside, and it was a woman screaming, and she was screaming bloody murder. So like the idiot that I am, I approached the van to investigate and potentially intervene if necessary, when the passenger side window rolled down and someone hurled a half-full bottle of beer at my head while yelling, "Faggot!" before the van took off. It was one of the most humiliating and infuriating moments in my life. It took me right back to being at Upper Darby High School, actually. So a few weeks later, I'm walking to my favorite bar when I pass this Mustang that's parked on the sidewalk, and once again, it has blackout tinted windows, and once again, I hear screaming coming from inside of it, and it's a woman screaming, and she's screaming bloody murder. And so I think Harrisburg's a small town. It's the same jerks. They saw me, they recognized me, and they're playing the same dumb prank. So I cross the street and I stand there smoking a cigarette, waiting to see how long they're gonna keep this charade going. And after a few minutes, I say, screw them, I'm calling 911. About 10 minutes later, the police show up, and before I know it, an officer is smashing in the driver's side window, pulling out this frat boy meathead looking creep, throwing him up against the side of the car and handcuffing him. A few moments later, the officer helps this younger woman out of the car, and I immediately realize that her clothes are torn and tattered, and her lipstick and mascara has been smeared across her face, and it wasn't just from crying, but from being violently, physically assaulted. And she's standing there pointing at me, yelling, "You heard me, and you did nothing." It was one of the most powerful moments of my life. It was far more humiliating and infuriating than that incident with the van. And I will never know what it's like to be a victim. And so I can't sit here and pretend to comprehend what it was that this woman went through. And I felt emasculated. I felt like a coward, and yet my own feelings are irrelevant and moot in comparison to what she went through. But she was kind of wrong that I did nothing. I did call the police like any sensible person. But the problem was that I waited. And I think we all like to imagine ourselves in these extraordinary circumstances where we want to believe that we would be these brave heroes who will stand up and confront a conflict like this. And I was disgusted with myself that I failed. And I swore that if I was ever in a situation like this again, I would act differently. And because I'm a shit magnet and Harrisburg is an abattoir of shit, I got another chance. A few months later, in my apartment, drunk as a skunk, and I hear screaming coming from outside. Now, I lived on the second floor of this triplex, and directly across the street from me is this empty parking lot sandwiched between a halfway house and a school for the blind. The jokes pretty much write themselves there. And I again hear this woman screaming, and I look outside, and there's this huge, scary-looking guy violently shaking this woman against a dumpster, yelling out these horrible threats and vulgar obscenities that I can't repeat here tonight. And the moment he threw on the ground, I immediately called 911, but I decided that I was not going to wait for the cops to arrive. But this guy's built like a linebacker, and I don't have a chance against him. I would need a step stool just to get a swing in. So I run to my bedroom, debating whether or not I want to intervene using my shotgun, thinking Winston Churchill. Speak softly, but carry a big stick that fires buckshot. But I realized that I'm drunk, and as bad as this situation is, it doesn't warrant a homicide. So rather than being an idiot and going out there with a gun, I did something much dumber. I'm a filmmaker, so I own a lot of props, and I own a lot of prop guns. And so before I knew it, I was walking outside with a replica of a Colt 1911 45 ACP. It's a really large, intimidating hand cannon. And when I get outside, this woman's laying down crying because he's already struck her. And I'm trying to be as calm and as sensible as a belligerently drunk, crazy man in his boxers hiding a toy gun behind his back can be. And I'm telling this guy to just back away, that I already called the cops. And of course he turns to me and he tells me what I can do to myself before threatening me. And he's starting to walk towards me and he's lifting up his shirt as if he's reaching into his pants. So I instinctively pull the toy gun, which is probably the dumbest thing I have ever done in my life. You never use a weapon as a means to threaten someone. But I'm a drunk idiot who's seen too many movies. So I'm yelling these stupid one-liners at him. I'm saying, get on your hands and knees before I turn you into a statistic. And before I know it, he gets on his hands and knees, puts his hands on his head, and I don't know if it's because he's scared of me or because the cops have finally arrived. We're both handcuffed and taken back to these cars, and after a while, an officer comes in and sits down next to me, and he says, I don't know if what you've done is one of the ballsiest things I've ever seen or the dumbest, but I'm pretty sure it's the latter. Do you have any idea how stupid that was? Do you have any idea how lucky you are that you're not dead, that he didn't shoot you, that we didn't shoot you? This guy is a convicted felon. We have a long history with him, and I can tell you that he's a very dangerous person. And that woman is not going to press charges tonight, which means he could press charges against you for what you did. We could arrest you for what you did, but we're not. But do you realize he had a real gun on him? And because he's a convicted felon, he can't have that, and the gun he has been reported stolen. So we still get to arrest him tonight. You're drunk. Go home and go to bed. What I did was dumb. It was not cool. There are no John McClanes in real life. In reality, they die in the first act. But it felt oddly vindicating. It was one of the most embarrassing and yet glorious moments of my life. Thank you.